Good morning, Michael. Oh my goodness. So there were storms last night and apparently knocked out quite a bit of my equipment that I didn't notice until like 3 seconds ago. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to get us up on Rumble and Instagram and make my microphone work and the earbuds, and people
You got too much tech.
People just don't know what an ordeal this can somehow be on some days.
Techie White. I'm changing your name from Jenny White to Techie White.
Oh, no, you're not, because I think you're misunderstanding. What I'm trying to tell you is apparently I'm not techie enough because all of this stuff was screwed up when I sat down this morning.
How about the simple farm life? How about just bring a donkey or goat in next to you and just have them walking around? And
okay, well, here's what I can do. Well, I can't now. I could go fish it out of the trash, but this morning, as I'm getting ready, I hear a little like kerfuffle thing going on in my kitchen, and I go in, and my husband there's a copperhead on the floor in my kitchen.
wow.
So not quite sure where that came from, but I'm like, I put him on that today. I'm like, okay, dude, today is you figuring out why it is that I had a copperhead in my kitchen this morning.
Yeah, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, and it was the little kind too. So it was kind of like, they say that the little ones can be more dangerous because of the fact that they don't know how to inject their venom yet. So it could be, you could get a whole bunch or you could get none or, whatever. And so it was a little one. And I'm trying to figure out how the cats didn't get to it, how the dogs didn't get to it, how it just ended up sitting there in the middle of my kitchen floor. So I'm like super happy about all of that this morning.
It's a good thing Saundra's coming on then.
Well, and I did put on I don't know if you can see this or not. It's my Diddley Squat Farm t-shirt. And then what it says on it at the bottom, read it and weep, Saundra. And Jeremy Clarkson, he thinks it's all funny to curse. And so, he asterisks out the two places, the A and the R, just so you can wonder what it is that he's saying, because that's Jeremy Clarkson for you. But yeah, why don't we bring in Saundra this morning? We're missing quite a few of our viewers this morning. I wonder if it was because of the storms, so I'm going to bring in Saundra so I don't catch her unaware. I'm going to tell her I'm bringing you in, Saundra.
Hi.
So you have electricity?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we had like some power flashes. Did you?
Nothing that I know of. Nothing. Not before we woke up.
Well, how were you not up? I started getting tornado warnings on my phone at 3:40.
I turned all that off. And our phones
here.
I do too, Jenny.
Your phones should be like off. We can have that discussion another time.
Even in a Faraday bag, at least away from your bed.
That's right.
Okay, I keep meaning to do that for sure. Yes. But then what do you do if there's an emergency?
You sleep through it peacefully.
Emergency. Like a tornado?
It didn't come here.
It was very close. It was right to the south of the Redbud.
True. Now, that's interesting there. What if we can talk about all that later. Don't spit out your coffee.
Almost did another spit take. You almost got me on that one because I was like, I know exactly where you're going. I know where you're going with that.
We'll just leave that.
Yeah. So I have that Facebook post up because I think, we do need to talk about that. So, Saundra?
Yes.
I just want to remind you of something. Hold on one second, because I want to be able to get this correct. Okay, so give me 1 second to find this. Okay, hold on. It's coming up. Quote, "This was an amazing session. I thought it was one of my best sessions we've ever had in 7 years." Unquote, Governor Stitt.
Are you ready for me to comment on that?
Do I need to shut off your microphone?
Oh, possibly. This was one of the most embarrassing sessions we have ever had. When we have legislators saying they'll slit your throat if you get in the way of whatever for their
What's good for my district?
What's good for my district, right? When we have, I'm waiting for someone to run legislation that we have to put breathalyzers on every one of their desks. And before they can vote, they have to blow into the breathalyzer. Can we just do that? I mean, real easy. I would be all for our tax dollars paying for that. All for it.
Hey, they randomly drug test our kids at school. I mean, we could only at least expect the same at the Capitol.
Absolutely.
Oh, no. As Julie has pointed out multiple times, but it is for thee and not for me.
Exactly. Although it is part of our state constitution that they cannot be inebriated. I mean, this is impeachable. So let's install some breathalyzers on all their desks.
Jenny, remember when we were looking at that ethics report on one of the guys I brought up, a couple months ago, and all the alcohol that was on there that was on the ethics report? I can't remember who that was. There's a lot.
Who was that?
Yeah, I can't remember who.
Dang it. We need to make these things. Yeah, dang it. I don't remember. But
I'm almost hoping that there was alcohol involved on some of the speeches that I heard on the floor. Really, that would be maybe excusable. Pot, something.
I think I heard one from Grant Green. "How dare you? We talk about people's families." He was rocking and rolling, our senator from out here in the sticks. He was rocking and rolling.
Maybe he didn't realize there was videoing going on.
Videoing. Well, no, because there's not supposed to be videoing going on.
No videoing. And no photos either.
No photos.
No photos.
And just sit while you're at it. Sit down and shut up.
That's right.
We're laughing. Now I'm doing it. We're laughing. We're laughing, but it's like not really all that fun. I mean, because I'm with you. This was an embarrassment of a session. We bring by. Hang on. Sorry, Saundra. One senator a few years ago got a DUI because he was asleep in the middle of an intersection. Next session, he was in leadership. Who was that? I remember that, Jules. Who was that?
Wow.
Oh, it's John says, "I just get on and I'm told to sit down and shut up." Well, get used to it, John. Who was that? Because I remember he was in leadership, and I see his face and I can't think of his name. Diane says, "I was watching on Instagram, switched over, so you didn't only have one viewer." And I can't think of his name either, dang it. And that makes me really mad because people should know who that is. Mm-hmm. I just got a text message from somebody and we forgot about this one. What about the legislator? He actually did leave the legislature, but what about the legislator who was in the parking lot of the beer joint in Edmond that I can't think of the name of?
Patriarch?
The Patriarch. Remember Ryan Martinez?
Oh,
yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's not as though this isn't. Yeah, it says patriarch. It is. It's not as though this isn't a thing. It's really super embarrassing.
But on the other hand, it is so embarrassing. Maybe you have to drink to cope. I mean, maybe the longer they're in there, there's a coping mechanism of you're passing legislation this terrible. Maybe they all just get driven to drink.
Well, you know what? You have a couple of pieces of legislation that were. Okay. And so for those of you who do not know what this means, Senator Grant Green accused our friend Dorn of being disrespectful at a legislative breakfast because he was smiling and asking a question. And I think our senator didn't care for the question he asked. So he decided, instead of answering the question, to be ugly to our friend Dorn, who, I'm not sure that Dorn has a disrespectful bone in his body. Does he? If he does, I haven't seen it yet. Oh, Bryce Marlett. That was one. And he ended up being, floor leader.
No way.
After that, he ended up being floor leader. So, I mean, I wish that but you know what? We've talked with Jason Murphy about the fact that this is like the club, right? Mm-hmm. We elect people who go down there to protect our individual liberties, and we individually elect them from our areas, and then they go to be a part of the legislature club. And then so it's like what you saw on the last day of session, where everybody was posturing and spitting and having a fit about because somebody said that somebody's wife worked for an agency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, last time I checked, Jenny, in my book and the way my family is, respect's got to be earned, somewhat. So if they feel disrespected, it's probably because they never earned anything in the first place.
Valerie said he accused Dorn of all people.
Well, and
it's
important to point out the ones that don't join the club are then ostracized and all of their bills are killed, like Representative Jim Shaw and all of the ones that we consistently see voting the right way.
Tom Gann.
Tom Gann, Rick West. There's a number of them. Gabe Woolley.
Oh, yeah, Gabe. They did the same thing to Gabe. And Gabe had some really great, he had some good legislation, but he had some really excellent questions. And that is, we've talked about this before, and I completely agree with that. I mean, yeah. Okay, so I do want to start with the bills because people need to know what happened, because I think they say to themselves, you know what, there's something wrong. I know there's something wrong, but then they're not really exactly sure what it is that's wrong because they don't know how bad things are. Do you follow what I'm saying? And I think if we sit with some of your bills and talk about those specifically, and then we want to go to a Facebook post about one of the bills, the behind the meter legislation. So I'm going to kind of throw it to you. Where do you want to start, Saundra?
Well, I also just texted you my spreadsheet that I did on all these bills, really all early in session. And I actually had the flu, and I was like, well, what better thing to do than go over legislation when you already feel terrible anyway? And so I created this spreadsheet of great bills, terrible bills, mediocre, like I call them half donkey bills. They're like a mule. They're sterile and they're worthless. And so within all of that, it was interesting. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. You're a real farm girl. It was interesting to see. Oh, I can't hear you.
You're on mute.
Sorry. Before you start, I want to make this point because I know that there are some people out there that watch us that are not farmers, and they think to themselves, I'm not even going to what do I care?
Right. Yeah.
Why don't you start by talking about why people should care about some of these bills, and especially ones to protect farmland? Let's start there.
Well, because we all eat. And I think that's a pretty big reason. And I've currently been in a debate this morning with one of our legislators who's throwing out dollar amounts, how much money this is going to bring to our state. And I had to bring up, we are not talking about our limited critical resources, our farmland, our water, and the health of Oklahomans and the next generation. And no one seems to want to talk about that. All they want to talk about is jobs and money and jobs and money. And if you dare debate them, they throw the Trump card out. Like, oh, you have to be for this because Trump says it's okay. How can I not be a critical thinker, a Christian, conservative, Republican, and question these things that are coming for Oklahoma without getting thrown under the Trump card bus? That is ridiculous. So, when we have 2 children now who have been diagnosed with chronic childhood illness that has never before been seen in our family. And that's 2 out of 2, by the way. And when I see people getting sick and cancers and all of these things, but yet we're saying we're open for business and no regulation, and that means no protections for us. And at the same time, we're then pulling the rug out from our county commissioners, telling them, you can't do anything to stop this. You have no rights. You have no power. You have no say, saying the same thing to our people. And eventually people are going to get to the point that they say, what's the point of engaging when they silence us? When even if we go up there and take time out of our workday, they say no videoing, no photos. When they block us on their government pages, where are our rights? And do we have to sue to get them back? Because that's always been a last resort. But I'm starting to wonder, is that where we're going to have to go to? Because they continue to silence us as citizens and take away our rights.
Well, but that's why I am suing.
Very good. Exactly.
Because you can't say, if you say, you can't do that. You can't just fire me like that because I said, that there were problems here. You can't just do that. Well, this is a giant protection racket similar to the mafia, where these people protect themselves. It's a revolving door where they leave the legislature and then they go to the Grand Dam Authority, what do you call it?
Grand River Dam Authority.
Grand River Dam Authority.
Yeah.
Then they become the head of this agency. Then they become the head of this committee. Then they go here. Then they become a DA. Then they're an AG. It's like, how do you get in the middle of these people who make government their whole lives? It's not about being a public servant. It's about what I can get from government. I don't want to go get a job. I got elected as a legislator. I should now be a lobbyist.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then when you look at, when you sit there and you talk to them and they say, well, if wind turbines are so bad or human or biosolids are so bad, then you guys should just sue. That sounds great, except meanwhile, they're putting in legislation on the other end, taking away our rights to sue, including a bill on repeated exposures to the same toxin. You can only sue once, which was related to wastewater and I'm sure human or biosolids. They also put in legislation on not allowing you to sue for nuisance, which would be how you would sue for, let's say, wind turbines and all of that. I believe that one didn't make it through, but watch it because I'm sure it will eventually. So they're saying on the one hand, oh, well, you can just sue, but then they're putting in legislation, putting caps on how much you can sue for, minimal amounts, because they say it's for the greater good and these are egregious lawsuits, or like the one that Senator Murdoch tried to put through on limiting liability for the chemical manufacturers based on a label. There's over and over and over, they are trying to protect industry and they're not trying to protect citizens. And they've completely lost their way. And then our appointed people in all of these other areas are also working for industry and not for us.
Yeah. Well, just as a little caveat to that, Saundra, just if someone doesn't know that's watching this, they have Clean Air Act, they have Clean Water Act, and they have nothing for the land, literally nothing for the land.
Right.
Well, and let's not forget this. Because the EPA had been under Democratic regulation for so long with Obama and then with Biden. And remember, Obama used the EPA as a way to screw over farmers and shut down things. I mean, he was literally legislating through the EPA rules. And so now what has happened is, and we've seen this in the carbon capture bill, we've seen it in so many bills this session, Saundra, haven't we? Is that what they say is, we don't need the EPA coming in here and telling us what to do. We're going to do it here on Oklahoma's terms. Mm-hmm. Well, so they've taken the backlash that's come from the EPA and gone, okay, so what we're going to do is, they know that we don't like the EPA, and the EPA has been bad, even though we now have Trump and it's supposed to be better. So we're going to use the EPA as this bad guy. And then what we can do is we can get our own people in there to do it, and then we can get whatever we want.
Yeah, which is exactly what they did with human urine biosolids, took it out from EPA oversight, and then did not.
And carbon capture.
Yes, and carbon capture, Senator Rader this session. But previously, years ago, they did it with human urine biosolids, and they did not even meet the EPA standards for years. We would go out there and see it sitting on top of the ground. It was supposed to be disked in. They didn't bother. It was all over highways, all over roads. People ride through it on their bicycles. They don't care. We were less than EPA standards on human urine biosolids. So what are we going to do on CO2 pipelines that are going through our state? When an earthquake could cause one of these to fissure, people will die. And, but as long as we're handling it on a local level, then we can tout it being a local thing. And also on the floor, say it's no worse than your carbonated beverage, which this is not, but for the point.
So I guess, you know what the thing is, though, Saundra, I think I'm going to have to disagree with you there. Mm-hmm. I don't see how people won't be killed, because there won't be any people on farmland, because all it's going to be is solar panels and wind turbines.
They don't need oxygen, so it is fine.
Exactly. So it's not like we need to be worrying about any of this anyway. We're not going to have any people on that property anyway. I mean, and I'm being sort of facetious, but I'm going to say sort of, because I don't know. And now we've got these data centers coming in, but we're getting off topic. But you know what I think we need to do? Let's do this. I'm going to pull in that. I am going to pull in. Here it is. All right. I'm going to pull in this thing that we were talking about, this post that we were talking about this morning, because I think it's really important that people see what is going on. I'm going to make this a little bigger so maybe you can see it. Okay, so before we even talk about this, why don't you tell us a little bit about this behind the meter legislation?
Right, behind the meter. And I believe it was Senate Bill, let me look it up, Senate Bill 480. Yes, Senate Bill 480 by Senator Grant Green was the main author, and Representative Brad Bowles signed on to be the House author. And then a plethora of legislators all signed on to be sponsors. Now, this bill is really interesting because a bill that I highlight in my talk and have for the last year is a bill by Representative Kevin Wallace. And in that original bill, it starts out by saying, in Washington County, and goes on to say that they can condemn the public water supply for hydrogen. It also singled out Tulsa County and Oklahoma County because of population density. But it specifically said in Washington County. So when I go and give my presentation around the state, I always bring up that bill, because these same legislators, including Senator Grant Green, have told the people, we're sorry, we can't help you with the wind turbine issue because we cannot do legislation just for your county. Well, here they did it on that bill. So I always talk about that, and I've talked about it for a year, and it's been on YouTube and it's been posted live streams, all of that. So when this bill came out, I thought it was extremely interesting that it was by Senator Grant Green, and they co-opted that bill with that blurb about in Washington County. Then they crossed out everything in those paragraphs that I highlight in my talk about in Washington County for hydrogen production for and allowing condemnation of public water supplies and whatnot. So they're erasing that. And let's remember that Senator Grant Green is in what was Representative Kevin Wallace's district and now is Representative Jim Shaw's district. Thank the Lord for that. But let's go back. So they cross all that out, erasing that from this legislation, which I believe was unconstitutional for them to do in the first place. And now they're making it a behind the meter bill. So behind the meter essentially means that these industries, corporations, private companies can now come to Oklahoma and provide power for themselves. Now, this seems like it should be a good thing. Like as a farmer, if I wanted to put a well on the other end of my property and I don't have power there, and I could put a few solar panels there privately to power that well. So it seems like a good bill. They also put in there that it has to use a component of natural gas. So by putting in that little bit about using natural gas, it brings on all the legislators that are pro oil and gas. However, it did not specify how much gas has to be used. You could use 0.0001% gas to power your industry, and the rest could all be solar and wind and whatever other industries they're going to bring in to produce energy. And then that means that these industries can, being subsidized by taxpayer dollars, buy up farmland all around them, put wind, solar, whatever on it to produce energy, and then maybe throw on a gas-powered generator to make sure they meet the requirements of that bill. Now, I recently spoke out in LaFleur County, and afterward, the people told me that farmers are selling out all over the place because they're getting made such great offers on their land, and OG&E is the one buying it up. So when we have already happening in our state, another individual reached out to me and he's looking into all these leases. He said people are going to certain areas of the state, buying up farmland, and it's just after 60 days. So at that point, the bank can't take it back, change their mind. Before the ink is barely dried on buying this land, they sign a lease for wind or solar. So there's certain people, certain individuals, certain entities that know exactly where these projects are going in. And how they know? Good question. And so they're buying up the farmland, and then they've already got a deal done with these energy companies to lease that for wind, solar, AI data centers, Bitcoin mining, or for substations for this power. Did that make sense, the way I explained that behind the meter?
Yeah, but I'll just say this. The bottom line is they made it sound as though it was this great thing, because if you wanted to have solar panels on your property to be able to power a windmill, or you had some other, you didn't have to go through OG&E, you could do that on your own. Yes. I didn't know it was illegal to do that in the first place. Did you?
No. So this way they don't have to connect to the grid, and we could already do that. We could already produce our own power for our farm. We could already do that. But this way, big industry can do it, and they do not have to connect to the grid, and they also do not have to provide power back to the grid for anyone else.
So
yeah.
Let me ask both of you, just in case I'm off base. Weren't we told that we are not, in the United States, we're not making enough power. We're not generating enough power because natural gas, there isn't enough natural gas, and we can't use coal because it's bad. Sulfur bad, right? So we can't do any of that. And not only is it cleaner and better for the planet to have windmills and solar farms and that kind of thing, but we have to have this extra power because we're just not going to have enough power to be able to run America the way we want to. Am I wrong?
Correct. However,
okay. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that was the initial premise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we have to have data centers because America has to get in front of the AI thing, just like we had to do with the space race. And now it's the AI race. How much energy do these stupid data centers take? Multiple thousands of watts more than anything else. And yet we don't have enough energy to power the United States the way we want, so that we're having to denude forests and ruin cropland to put in solar panels and wind farms and green, what do they call it now? Green hydrogen. I mean, come on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And these AI data centers, they don't just use power. So one data center would use about the equivalent of power of the city of Edmond. So they don't just suck up power from our grid that was going to homes and individuals. They will also suck up water. And so our water supply is at risk. And so the one going in, say, in Luther, the individual from the company informed me that they were going to be using non-potable water. Well, this is interesting. What do they deem non-potable water? And also, where's the wastewater going to go? And what contaminants will then be added to that wastewater once it's thrown back into our water supply via wastewater stream? So there's all of these components.
Well, but EPA has clean water standards.
Yeah, people need to look up Senate Resolution 30 by Paxton last year, basically telling the federal government, here is Oklahoma on a silver platter, and we won't get in your way, and we won't allow these pesky radicals to use even the law to protect themselves. And don't worry about that Clean Water Act either. That's the way I read it, but people need to go read it themselves.
So let's talk about this. This is Brad Bowles, Representative Brad Bowles. Chickasha just announced the largest economic development project in city history, which could be up to $3.5 billion in new private investment. When I filed the behind the meter bill this year, we knew it could be a big deal, but to see it pass into law this month, which led to this new investment that could transform the future of Chickasha and Grady County, is incredible. Today, Governor Stitt said that behind the meter policy may be the most significant economic development legislation passed in state history, leading to more billion-dollar projects that will be coming to our state. Stay tuned for more big announcements coming across Oklahoma. And I'm just going to scroll down here because make it shareable. Congratulations. Great job. Awesome. Great job. Congrats. Thank you. Way to go. Great job. Great news. Great job. It's a great day to live in Chickasha. Congratulations. Way to go, Brad. Incredible. Brad, thank you. Awesome. We appreciate you. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And I think the biggest problem we have is that people think somehow that this whole notion of we're going to get millions of dollars for this, and this is going to make us an industry leader, and we're going to have all these jobs. You're not having any jobs in a data center.
Exactly.
Okay, it's not going to happen. You have a janitor and a guy who runs the electricity. And I think I want to point out somebody who said up here, there have been some good comments. I just have been. Economic development, mentioned in Bowles' post, is integral to workforce development, especially when we look ahead to 2030 goals.
Hit Dana's second comment on that she just made.
Okay. Data centers play a pivotal role in linking workforce development and economic development, especially in ways that support Agenda 2030, particularly Sustainable Development Goal 8. Decent work. Decent. What's decent? I mean, honestly, they use these terms and people are just like, way to go, Brad Bowles, decent. I mean, it is so frustrating. What happened to the 3 brain cells in here that could synapse and go, oh, hang on, what's decent? Wait a minute, I'm not sure,
Oh, how about we talk about the number of jobs that will be taken by AI?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're going to bring in some low-paying jobs for you all to get cancer doing them. And meanwhile, we're going to take away anything that takes a brain, like writing. Your authors are all going to be gone because AI can just write it for you. I mean, graphic design. Nope, don't need that. Movie industry. Sorry, you're screwed. Anything that took creativity, anything that took critical thinking skills, everyone's just going to AI to do it for them. What jobs will be left other than farming, which biblically you should be getting into farming right now because barley's going to be going for a lot pretty soon.
Well, honestly, I don't even know, are we going to have enough farmland? Because my friend Shelley from Washington County, because she's like, why Washington County? They were taking a drive, and I think, weren't you going through the Panhandle? Isn't that where you were going? And you had these beautiful pictures on your Facebook page of your trip, but it was all empty farmland and empty farmhouses. And, we started this in the Industrial Revolution, trying to get people off their farms and into the better life that they were going to have in the city, where you were going to have all of this. Push the easy button. No copperhead in your kitchen in the morning for you. You're in the middle of about 270 other homes.
Yes. So Washington County, can I address that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because Shelley's right here. Do it.
Yes. So in Washington County, if you would Google it, sorry, that was a reference to a legislator who said they Googled it. They immediately after that bill was passed, maybe within weeks, an article came out in Washington County, hydrogen production starts, blah, 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 blah. They already had the industry all lined up to go. They already had everything going. That bill was just, we should probably put in a bill making this legal because we already made the deal on the back end in Washington County to be producing hydrogen. And hydrogen is directly related to CO2 because I believe for every, it's like 1 to 9. So for every 1 of hydrogen you produce 9 CO2. So then you have to capture the CO2, sequester it underground to get more money because you get paid by the government to do that. Which goes back to all that you've written on CO2 and all of that.
Well, and we've talked about this morning, but I think CO2 illustrates it, like puts the point on the exclamation mark. How much sense does it make to take pre-food out of the atmosphere?
Great point.
How much sense does it take to take grass food out of the atmosphere?
And corn food and wheat food and orange trees and pecan trees and all of that depend on it.
And how much sense does it make to convert farmland into solar panels and data centers? Is nobody seeing? I mean, Michael, you're laughing, but people are not seeing this. I mean, you can draw the line right in front of their face and they're still like, but money, but jobs. I mean, how do you fix this?
Jenny, the Thunder lost last night. That's what's important. The Thunder lost.
Dude,
that's what's important.
Dude, you're done. I'm cutting you off now. You're off. But I mean, it's so true. Our government wants mega farms easier to control and the quality doesn't matter.
Oh yeah. Well, and on that control aspect, you look at all these data centers, Saundra. I mean, it's literally a data center. In my opinion, is a human displacement center. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
going to think, compute, do all the things humans did. So humans are now, not as necessary. So another caveat to that is how are they going to control all these displaced humans? They're going to need massive surveillance. You can only have massive surveillance if you have a full-time, like a live-time data communication network. I mean, it's just common sense, in my opinion. I just don't understand how people cannot see that. I mean, I see it in our business and all our investing. I mean, they're literally all these investments that roll through our office that are, like 5 to 7 years, 10 years from now, is when you'd see the fruit of the investment. I mean, they're all literally have to do with displacing humans. Like almost every one of them is just data this, technology that we're going to be able to, eliminate this type of, liability. Whatever. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Right. If you hire a robot to do the job for you, then you don't have to pay when the robot accidentally gets its arm cut off. I mean, it's not that hard to put this together, that they are building environmental social governance through these AI data centers. And no one seems to want to look at that, because all they have to do is throw out, it's for national security and it's for the good of the nation. I'm sorry, whose national security? Is this to silence people like us who dare to say anything? Because, there was a bill. I should have looked it up. It was, I believe, 50 pages long. And it went into how we needed to start regulating and monitoring the fact that for years, we have already allowed industries set up in Oklahoma to collect data on citizens, from biometric data, DNA, iris patterns, our gait, our walking, our body types, every single thing, and then some that you can think about that would identify you as an individual person, has been being collected for years and sold. And so this over 50-page bill went into all the different aspects of who we are, from our fingerprints, facial recognition, all of that has been collected on Oklahomans and sold. And then it went on to say, we should probably start regulating that, and was a ridiculous bill anyway that would have then given the funding to the Attorney General's office to do that. I believe that bill was actually killed. So I don't even know if we have anything now in place to protect us from anything.
Think about it, Saundra, that just with what they exposed in that bill, that's what they're willing to tell us that they're doing or have done. I mean, think about all the stuff and the capability that they have that they're not going to tell us about.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that we are now putting a huge emphasis on our, I'm not sure how they worded it, our aerospace industry.
Yeah, aerospace.
Yes. Yeah. Drones, surveillance, drones, plotting, mapping, making sure they know everything we are doing. And they have to have AI data centers to do all of this. And, Trump selected, I think there were probably some handshake deals, maybe at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, wait, Governor Stitt went there for dinner, remember? And then they announced that 8 states would be the prime states for AI data centers in the United States, and Oklahoma was one of them.
What? Well, that seems funny.
I mean, which states have no regulations, no protections for their people? They're not going to put them in California, where they make things harder and more expensive. Cheap land, cheap labor, and a legislature and governor who are willing to throw us under the bus for a few people to make a lot of money. And then they'll claim all these jobs will be brought to Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I think that it is. Yeah, I there's so much. Well, actually, what's interesting though? I just read something the other day. I think it was in a Robert Malone Substack about the amount of energy we have tied up in coal now. We could literally fuel the planet for ever with coal.
Yeah.
But they've demonized coal because of the bad sulfur. Oh no. And, we have all this technology to create data centers, but we don't have technology to get the sulfur out of coal.
Mm-hmm.
None of this makes any sense. If you just legitimately sit down and kind of go through these things piece by piece, it literally makes no sense unless you're a globalist that wants to stick it to the little guys. That's the only thing that makes sense. There is no common sense in this. There is nothing that makes, and I have to say, what did I say?
It makes no sense unless you're a globalist.
Shoot, I lost my train of thought because
Can I interject something?
No, of course, please.
So, but it's not just the bills that they're promoting this. It's the ones they killed that would have allowed people to grow food with less regulation. So that's the irony here, because they'll say, I'm for property rights and you can do whatever you want on your property to make money. But Jenny White, you cannot can some jam in your kitchen and sell it. That's illegal. You have to have a commercial kitchen in order to sell some jam that you grew organically on your farm. And don't.
Well, you can sell jam now. You just can't sell more than $30,000 of it a year.
Oh, okay. No, you can't make enough money to make a living wage.
Correct.
But you can go get a decent job at an AI data center. Go get a decent.
You can barely even collect rainwater on your property.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of the regulations, I mean, Rick West had one that would have allowed anyone to grow a tomato plant, whether they lived in a homeowners association or not. You could grow something in your yard to feed your family, and they killed that. They killed legislation that would have allowed us to continue to advertise our donkey milk. They killed all these great bills, and I'm talking about Democrats and Republicans voted against them in the committees. And then they didn't even allow them to have a hearing on the floor. It would have taken seconds to hear those bills and pass them, but they killed them all. There was an Amish farmer in Tom Gann's district who was fined $5,000 for selling a few gallons over his legal limit. Yeah, because there is a legal limit on how much raw milk you can sell from your farm legally, because they don't want you to be a competition for any of the big boys. And so they came in and fined him $5,000. And I asked Representative Gann about that. And I said, well, and I'm ashamed to say that I said this. I said, well, how did the government know how many gallons he sold over his 200 gallons or 300 now? And he said, well, he's Amish and he told the truth. And I was like, okay, you're right. I'm sorry I even said that, because of course, and we should all tell the truth. And when we started our farm, that was our thing. We said, we won't break the law and we're going to do everything right so that we can continue to tell people about how the Lord helped us through donkey milk for our daughter with pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder associated with strep, because children were being misdiagnosed. And we wanted to be able to share a story, so we weren't going to break the law. So then we've had now 2 pieces of legislation filed specifically targeting our farm as the only donkey dairy, trying to shut us down and make it so we can't even tell people that we have raw donkey milk. Now, that's unconstitutional in itself. But the fact that we even have to worry about that if if we speak up about these things, they could file legislation retaliating against us, is insane. And until more.
Well, where do you think you live, Saundra? America?
Yeah.
So I want to point something out, because I don't know if you saw the one where Ed was watching for a little bit. I hope you're still on. Ed came on a couple of weeks ago, last week, I don't remember, and he was talking to us about VOTEC, which was great. And we had a great discussion, but he made a comment that just kind of goes so well with what John's saying right here. So he was talking about the fact that as a diesel mechanic, because that's what he is a diesel mechanic, it's gotten harder and harder for them to work on these trucks. So think about, the diesel engine was one of the easiest engines to work on. It was completely simplistic. It would go for days. It ran on this fuel that nobody really even wanted. It was like the greatest thing ever, right? Well, then they decided that sulfur bad, right? So they had to change the emission standard. So you can't put diesel in your diesel engine if it has sulfur in it. So that screwed up the entire diesel engine. They had to go back and fix the diesel engine so they could actually use this desulfurnated, whatever, gasoline to make the engines work, right? Okay. So then they pull the sulfur out of the oil, and the farmer now has to add sulfur in their fertilizer to get the crops to grow. And that was part of what Ed said during that conversation. He was like, okay, well, here's the thing. You do realize that when that was in the gasoline, it would go back up into the atmosphere, then it would rain back down, get into the land and help, invigorate crops. It is legitimately as though everything that is good for crop growing, for anything that's going to support human beings, they're just getting rid of. Mm-hmm. And our idiots are going along with it. They're all just fine so long as there's money coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all they have to do is say, well, Trump is for this, so gung-ho for Oklahoma. Well, I'm sorry. Why are Oklahomans footing the bill for an aluminum plant by the United Arab Emirates? If it's for federal issue, why isn't the federal government paying for it? And
wait, I didn't think we were supposed to have foreign-owned land in Oklahoma.
Oh, no. Oh, right. Because of all the half donkey bills that they put in on that did nothing to stop it. Yeah.
I hate to tell people this, but we're living in China. More people have to rise up. We have a small window to take back our state. Thank you, Saundra, for all the work you're doing. Much appreciation. The legislators will also have people call you and tell you to calm down and not make comments about them.
Or they'll block you.
Or they'll block you, or they'll tell you no videoing.
Right.
Many true conservative bills don't make it to committees after certain legislators were strategically chosen to chair those committees. The same is going on with the CO2 scam. The plants need it. There's Ed. Don't get me started on carbon capture. We won't.
Absolutely.
But you were a big help with the sulfur thing. And of course, nothing good comes from DC. But the problem, Julie, is nothing good is coming from Oklahoma either. Absolutely. And I lay this right at the feet of Governor Stitt, who believes that you run a state like a business. Mm-hmm. And I want to point this out and be super, super clear here. For years, Republicans got on board with that. The Chamber of Commerce particularly. We need to run this state more like a business. It needs to be run by like a business. This is all, and they'd make up all these reasons why this state needs to be run by a business. So you have a business, Saundra. Do you get people to vote on how many gallons of donkey milk you're going to sell a month? Do you have people voting on whether or not you open up your property to have people come in to visit the donkeys? Do you have anybody voting on anything you do?
You mean other than me and my husband?
Precisely.
Right. Yeah, we should have the freedom to choose how we run our business. We should have the freedom to have a farm to table meal here and sell that farm raised meal on our farm without having to worry about the health department showing up and telling us we didn't cook that chicken over in a commercial kitchen and so we can't sell it. So this whole property rights, you can do whatever you want on your property. No, that only applies if it's signing a lease for thousands of acres of industrial solar or 750 foot tall wind turbines, almost as tall as the Devon Tower. Then you can do whatever you want on your property. But that philosophy is completely flawed and a complete hypocrisy statement. But I do want to get back to great bills that were killed versus the terrible ones that they pushed through, and the show bills. Let's talk about show bills, because I don't know if everyone goes to Senator Grant Green's government page. I can't because I'm blocked. But if everyone else does, they can see one of his recent press releases, and I don't know, maybe AI wrote it for him. I'm not sure. But it talks about how he tried to ban human or biosolids and how toxic it is. Well, some of us know that he actually used biosolids on his property or his leased property, I'm not sure which, and so did Representative Kevin Wallace. And so I find it extremely interesting that now he's a champion for banning biosolids, which that bill originally was starting out where they would have had to test for PFAS in biosolids before they could land apply. They switched that to a ban, and Senator Grant Green is over the Energy Committee. Well, for some reason, they decided that the human or biosolids bill that Senator Shane Jett and Representative Jim Shaw had needed to go to the Energy Committee. Why the Energy Committee? What does biosolids, human or on farmland, have to do with energy? Please tell me that. But anyway, it goes to Grant Green's Energy Committee. So he has the say over whether to hear his own crap bill, because that's what it is, or Senator Jett's bill. And Senator Jett and Representative Jim Shaw's bill. So of course he refused to hear the great bill. And you can go read those bills for yourself and see which one was the better bill, because Senator Jett and Representative Shaw's bill actually defines the stuff properly and then goes on to have provisions in there to start voluntary testing of farmland that could be impacted and remediating and taking care of those communities and bringing them back to where they need to be safe and productive. And instead, he refused to even allow that bill a hearing in his Energy Committee. The other one, the mirror bill that Representative Shaw had on the House, did not get a hearing in committee as well by, I believe, Representative Patskowski refused to hear it. And so then they shoved through Senator Grant Green's bill, which was a joke. I believe it was Senate Bill 2 or 3, totally written, ridiculous, total joke. And that one passes the Senate and then doesn't even get a hearing on the House side, which was, I'm sorry, always the plan. They never intended for that bill to get a hearing on the floor. And it was a terrible bill anyway, because that bill was phasing out humaner over years, but it continued to allow them to put it on existing permitted land. That means the areas where they had already applied biosolids would have been concentrated with more and more and more biosolids, which with PFAS, it is bioaccumulative. It builds up in the soil. And so those areas would have been completely poisoned. Those people subjected to horrific levels of this and their water supply with Senator Grant Green's bill. And so for him to be over there bragging about how he is a champion for this when he killed the good legislation, and there's people on his page, way to go, Senator Green, good job, buddy. I'm like, are we really? I'm sorry, but if we don't start paying attention and people looking at more than their press release and actually seeing and tracking these bills, which is why I put together that spreadsheet, we get what we get and we don't throw a fit, because right now there's only a very small percentage of people who actually see what's happening. The people that follow your show, the people that are paying attention, very, very few Oklahomans understand what is coming for us. And the big, beautiful bill, federally, if that passes and it does take away some of the subsidies to wind and solar and green energy, it will give them about a 90-day window to get a shovel in the ground so they still get those subsidies. What that means is that we will be hit in 90 days with massive amounts of projects that are suddenly shovel ready in the ground so they get those subsidies. Too much?
Well, I mean, the only...
Did I make you speechless?
Saundra gets the award. I was just getting ready to say that. Saundra gets the award.
Well, I mean, I think the frustration for all of us is real, because we can sit here legitimately and talk about these things and about the fact that none of this makes any sense logically. I mean, logically, none of this makes any sense.
Yeah.
And yet, again, what do we care about? Well, we care about the thunder. We care about OU or OSU, and then we care about if we're going to fight over because you're a poke. I mean, we are so we're so dumbed down. I mean, we're just completely dumbed down to the point where we get so much dopamine off of this and off of, go Thunder, that it just has become what the Marxist expected us to be anyway, which is, a bunch of dummies sitting here going, no, please go ahead, feed me some Soylent Green.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I just need my
No,
Soylent Green.
Jenny, I get a free cheeseburger if I take a COVID shot.
True that.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to address what I believe is probably one of the greatest psyops that they put on all of us. And I fell for it. The globalists and the elites control everything, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Now, and I have people come on my page all the time and they'll say, this is coming. You can't do anything about it. So why try? Why fight? Why do anything about these issues? Because it's coming for us and you have no say. And that even down to our local officials were all hand selected by the globalist elites. And I'm like, okay, excuse me, but I didn't know I was a globalist elite because I actually had a hand in some of these good people. We door knocked for them. We did everything we could to help them get elected. And I knew them before they were legislators, and they are good, amazing people. The globalists did not run these people. The globalists had nothing to do with the great guys that are now in office right now. And my latest thing that I'm just responding with, and I'm sure I'm making people mad, everyone knows who Joshua and Caleb were. Nobody remembers the name of the other 10. The 10 that went in and said, there's giants there, we can't take it, this is too hard. And that's what these globalists and these elites, these are the giants of our time. And you can be one of the 10 that sits back and says, oh, we can't do anything, they're going to kill us, we look like gnats in their eyes. Or you can be a Joshua and a Caleb. And you can put your eyes on Christ and on the Lord and say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And stop being afraid. Why are we afraid to even go on a Facebook post and comment with the truth? Because everyone else is saying, way to go, Brad Bowles. Good job, buddy. Why? What's so scary about telling the truth? I mean, what? Are they going to show up at your farm with agents and try to shut you down?
Because that's not actually happened before. Yeah.
Well, I agree, Saundra. I mean, it's that total disempowerment. They don't want us to believe we can make any change or do anything. And it's just no different than any of the other stuff we see kind of in line with that. Take like Trump. Everybody thinks everything's just going to change magically because Trump's in there. It's not going to happen. It's up to us still to make all that stuff change. It's just like during Trump's first administration, like with the J6, there's all these white hats everywhere. Oh, they're going to turn the government around. That was a total disinformation, deal. So we don't have to do it because all these white hats are going to do it. So we'll just let them do it. It's just that same deal. So I'm glad you said that about the globalists because, that's just the propaganda they put out in one way or another that, they control things. We don't control things. We do. We control what we do ultimately. And it's just like that show from the 90s, that one of those animations with the ants and the grasshoppers. The grasshoppers were the big bad guys, but they, I need to get that clip and play it.
Yes. Yeah. And
because if enough of us band together, we can take them down.
Right. And by local, Jenny's been saying this for years, local, get involved locally. And so, there's even something within that big, beautiful bill that would take away states' rights to regulate AI data centers. Excuse me? Where is Gettner Drummond on this? Where is our governor on this saying, wait, hold on, we have states' rights and you can't take them from us. And if we give them on this, then what else do they take from us? Are we just going to have federal control? Then if that's the case, then let's stop paying anybody up at the Capitol and let's stop giving our legislators, let's throw away that sham. We don't need them. Let's just
don't make Julia that excited.
We don't need a governor. We don't need a corporation commission. We can just get rid of all of them and all their salaries and just kowtow to DC. Let's just do that. I'm just
waiting for the comment. 100% Saundra. These people, There it comes. There it comes. I knew it. They keep us focused on the Musk Trump bromance or Epstein or some sensational story for far away, so we don't pay attention to the corruption right under our noses. But I mean, that's just 100% what Dana said. The people are or appear to be waking up. Look what we did with SB 224, which was a huge piece of their globalist agenda. And that's really true. I mean, we did manage to do well, and here's the other problem. Not surprising, their local mainstream Oklahoma media is so corrupt and turning their back. But it's funny though, Dorn, because I was noticing, I never watch the news. I have the News 9 app, so I can have it for weather alerts that are going to wake me up for like 2 hours before the tornado comes. That's what I have that for. But when you actually go and you watch their shows, I just was like, are you kidding me? So one of the weather women, whatever you call them. So she was talking about, okay, these storms are going to come in. It's going to be great for the Thunder game and the blah. She's doing this. And I'm like, it's weather. I mean, we can't even get through weather without the propaganda, the breads and circuses. I mean, it's just, it is so, what they're doing to us, between what public schools are doing to our kids and what the media is doing to adults we should all be banding together and saying, we're just not going to watch you people, blah, 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 whatever. And yet we don't do that. I mean,
well, however, there are tidbits of truth, like the Fox story that they came out and interviewed you and me about the AI data center. And that was great. So there are reporters up there that are trying to put out real news. And so unfortunately, and I'm like, they're now, I'm sure their budgets are getting slashed as well, because the reporter who came out here, she did the interview.
Bless her heart.
She had the camera set up on a tripod. The donkeys almost knocked it over. She then was going to go back and put the whole thing together, edit it, and put it out herself. One reporter, we've had reporters come out here before, and it was the reporter and a videographer, and then they would take it back and have someone else edit it and put the whole thing together. And so look at how many jobs have already been displaced by apps and AI that can now do it for you.
Yeah. Well, and then that poor sweet girl was tromping around in donkey poo in those white.
She was really cute.
God, she was adorable. Okay, so I kind of want us to get back on track about a couple of things, because but then again, I kind of want us to sit on what we were talking about before. If we don't make people convinced that they can do something, because what happens is they get permission to quit, right? They get permission to stop, because it's like, well, it's not like if I do anything, it's going to matter anyway, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So then they just give themselves permission to, so I'm done. I don't have to do it now because nothing I'm going to do is going to make any difference.
Can I go ahead?
No, you're just my guest. You can't say anything.
I don't want to interrupt. You had a thought.
Go ahead.
You had a thought.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I had a congressman's representative tell me this could all be stopped by the county commissioners. He said, if you guys had if grassroots would have put in strong county commissioners with a backbone, they could have banned all of this stuff, put in moratoriums right now and stopped it all. The green energy, the humaner, all of it, county commissioners could have stopped it, and essentially laid the blame at the foot of you and I for not doing our job and getting better county commissioners in. That was irksome to me. However, he's right. We could have, and I said, will you put this in a letter from the congressman telling these county commissioners that they do have the authority to do this? And he said, oh, no, we can't do that. And I said, well, they're all telling us that they have no authority to do that. We just do roads, and we can't actually, even though they were elected to protect the health and safety of their community, and they refuse to do that time and time and time again. So when they actually have something big come on them, because we elected people who we thought could just put down gravel and do roads, we don't have people up there that actually know how to handle something real. And all they do is listen to their district attorney or assistant district attorney who tells them, no, you can't do anything. At what point do they grow a backbone and stand up for the people who elected them?
But it's what Michael said a minute ago, you know, and what you said too about how come people won't go on Brad Bull's post and say, well, wait a minute, I'm not all on board with this. What about blah, blah, blah?
Right. Yeah. Why not? Are we scared of our legislators? And if we're scared of our legislators because they're talking about slitting your throat on the floor, maybe we need to replace them. And if that legislator who talked about slitting your throat on the floor is put in a leadership position again next year, we have a huge issue, because these guys are in leadership and they're talking about slitting throats on the floor in leadership.
Okay. I want to see if I can find that post. I think I know where I can find it. Let me see if I can find it really fast for people who didn't see that. Well, that's weird.
And I would like our tax dollars to be spent on upgrading our Senate.gov and House.gov websites so that we could actually share a link that goes directly to those videos, because it's impossible right now. They don't allow you to do it. It goes to here's the website, and now you have to know which date that one was on and what hour it was. And I mean, it's ridiculous, which is why we have to then go and video and screen record and then share those clips, because they make it impossible to go find it on their website.
Okay, hold on a second. I was on the wrong page, and so it wasn't letting me find it. Okay.
Well, not just share those links, Saundra,
here
but
it is. Are you ready?
Go.
Okay, here it is. Let me get this. Wait. Okay, hold on. Let me get it pulled in so everybody can see. Yeah. That's who I was looking for, but then I couldn't find Roberta when I was in the wrong profile, because that's the way they like it to work, you know. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be easy to do these things. Okay, are you ready? Here we go.
I will cut your throat to protect my district. What we do in this body affects all of us. It affects our families. It affects our reputation. It affects our integrity if we allow it. We're here at 9:20 because enough pressure was put on the body to be able to change votes. Are we going to hold this vote up for 5 hours until we can extract the vote we want? Is someone going to offer me $5 million for a pet project? Is someone going to offer me an airport in my district or any kind of random project? What my price is? Am I going to get offered that? What we have here is political theater, retribution. We have someone who's come in and ruffled feathers, began asking hard questions, and guess what they've done? They've opened a hornet's nest of corruption. There are monies going out that we can't figure out where they're going, and it's not a good look for us. There are things going on in the shadows that need to be brought to light.
You know, at the end of the day, this is about the state. What is good for the state? And I know there's been some innuendos thrown out there. I know of members that have made decisions, and they might have been tough decisions, but those decisions were what was good for the state. But let's not demonize one member over another because he has a different route that he wants to take.
I'm not going to trade my integrity for an airport or $5 million or anything else that may have been traded tonight or not traded tonight, allegedly. I'm not for sale.
Now, I do want to interject. I do believe those were two different debates on two different bills. So we do have to take it in context, and everyone knows I'm a big fan of Senator Jett. So I'm not discounting that did happen. But I believe that the Murdoch debate was in regards to the wife and all of that.
Okay, but hold on before we continue.
Oh, exactly. I was going to say that too. The state, not the
He
individual.
didn't say good for people. He said state.
The individual rights do not matter. The state.
Not only that, he has a district. I'ma slit your throat over, cut your throat.
Oh, wait, cut your throat. We did get that wrong. Cut your throat. Yeah.
Yeah, cut your throat. What does it matter? I mean, it still results in bloodletting and maybe possibly death. But it's okay for him to say that because that's on the floor of the Senate. I
Right.
suppose. But if I were to say that on a Facebook page, holy moly, Katie bar the door, that would be the end of that right there. But he
Right.
can say that. I mean, it's just crazy. But the point that we're trying to make here, all of us, because I know when he said that, my eyes went. Like, dude, you don't care about the state. Wake up. That's not your job.
You do realize right now they are writing legislation against podcasts by individuals and against donkey milk. Like right now, somebody's trying to figure out how to write legislation to silence you. But don't worry, we'll just be tracked and traced by the new AI data centers and they'll just pull the plug on our power right away.
Haired over 60-year-old women are not allowed to have podcasts.
Right. Exactly.
Murdoch in his own words. Just a dumb farmer from Western Oklahoma.
That was kind of disrespectful, Dorn.
Dorn. But I mean, honestly, again, we're laughing. It's not funny. It's just not funny. I mean, he stands there, says that stuff, then basically tells us that doesn't care what his job is up there, or he doesn't know. He's so dumb that he's finishing up an entire term and doesn't know why he was up there. But it wasn't to do something for the state, just like we don't run the state like a business. And in a business, it's not a democratic thing. The boss says, which is why Stitt operates the way he does. He believes that the state should be run like a business. And he's the CEO. So he says, you out, you hired, you out. He doesn't really care who the people are or what because it was the best session he's seen in 7 years.
Right. And
right?
They only care about the state to the degree that it enriches the few individuals who are in the know.
Yeah. Yeah, because when you run anything like a business, it's only about money. That's it. Period.
You know, and I was going to say something, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. I was thinking maybe I wouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. So we know we have some friends who are involved in Pike Off OTA who have been doing studies on land deals near turnpikes. And I believe they've done some work on the Chickasha Business Park. And I'm just saying that I think it's entirely possible that there are land deals being done around Oklahoma Turnpike Authority property that people are taking advantage of that they can make money off of. And you're not supposed to do that in this state, but they get away with it because people won't call them out. And then even if people call them out, because we've got some friends in Chickasha who have been calling them out. They've been calling out our friend Laurie Wood, been calling out people in Chickasha about what's going on with that leg lamp and all of this, you know, the stuff that they've been, and people just don't listen, or they yawn, or then they go after her. Well, you just don't know how things are going, and you're this and you're that. It's the And it's weird because if it's said on social media or if it's said it's written somewhere, then automatically it's true. Well, I heard that about Jenny White.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And they're defaming us and our character. Legislators are defaming us. I mean, when they put out political flyers calling us and our group environmental extremists against farmers and ranchers. And now they're getting smart enough to not actually cite the group name, but they're putting out things like calling us, what was it? Socialist land stewards. And we're liberals, we're tree huggers, we're all of the list of things. And then the other ones will say we're far right extremists. So we're apparently all things to all people. We do all of it. We are liberals, we're far right extremists, we're tree huggers, we're all of these things, except what we actually are, which is citizens who care about the health of our children, the future of Oklahoma, our food supply, and our farms, and what is happening. And we see the big picture. And we don't just put on blinders and say, oh, Trump says it's good, so we're going to be all in for it. I voted for Trump. I'm a conservative, Republican, Christian. I can still have a brain and think about the impacts to all of this to our state.
Hold on one second. I've got to, I'll be right back. Continue.
Oh, Jenny's disappeared.
She's extricated. Yeah. Well, these are all issues that are coming for us. And until you do see the big picture, and I think there's a level of ignorance by legislators who truly don't understand. And there's also ridiculous amounts of bills being put through where they cannot keep up. I mean, why don't we have legislation restricting every legislator to 8 bills and that's it? And then you can actually read them and dig into what this means and the implications of these bills instead of 500 bills put out by, I mean, what was it Hilbert threw out there? 500 or something like that? It was insane. And some of them were just placeholder bills in case they wanted to run something under that category. Jenny's back.
That's the real aggravating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had dogs barking like they had something treed, and I was worried more about a snake again since we've had one in the kitchen this morning. It was just a squirrel. I don't care about those. There's a Bill of Rights, and there are 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto. Which one does the government have? Does this government have agencies in place in order to make sure it's enforced? It's and Stephanie's talking about what you were talking about, Saundra. Jet made the speech after they moved to the next legislation on the agenda, SCR 12, regarding removing the Commissioner of Mental Health. So his speech was referring to both SCR 12 and HB 2769, which is the vote that they held open for 5 hours. And why? I don't know who. I mean, obviously something happened. So
right.
I think you're putting, and Stephanie says it made it a little bit confusing if you weren't actually watching the debate live, since the speech involved 2 issues. And I get it, but I think the point of her putting those together was just the fact to show how crazy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They thought that day.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we do have to put things in a 2-minute or less clip in order for people to pay attention. And that's unfortunate too, because most people are not going to go watch and scroll through 5 hours of them delaying a vote in order to get somebody off a plane that can come and sway it the way they want it to go. I mean, or whatever happened there.
Yeah. We talked about all of that the other day. So you're going to put out, aren't we going to publish that spreadsheet that you made?
Yes, I still need to spend a few hours updating it to all of the bills that got killed and how they were killed. And then I need to publish it on my page where everyone can see it, because it's pretty disheartening. And I mean, even just little bills that they killed that would have let you grow a tomato plant by Representative Rick West. Why kill that? What's the point?
But I mean, it's true. Honestly, that you would think that would be the easiest thing. But then I thought that about raw milk initially, when we started on the raw milk thing, that, how easy would that be
Yeah.
to get, I mean, it's like whatever you want to do. Sure. Here, go ahead and, have your, and that,
yeah, you cannot advertise raw cow milk, unless you
Yeah.
also have a pasteurized USDA grade A dairy barn. And,
Yeah.
when I went to Senator Yeck and I was like, you're putting our little donkey dairy under this legislation, and we would have to build a USDA grade A Brahms style dairy barn in order to be able to sell our raw milk, even though our raw milk sells out as raw. So there would be no point to us spending few $100,000 to build this type of a dairy barn. And he said, well, just build your barn. And then he said, yeah, just build it. And then he said, well, you don't need to advertise. You've already got your customers. You've been in business for 8 years. Tell that to Brahms. Tell them they can take down their sign, can't even have a sign on the road. They don't have to put up anything on the windows. And that's advertising too. And they can't have any, because they have existing customers. They don't need to advertise anymore. Which was unconstitutional. If you have a legal product, you have every right to advertise. And these cow farmers should all be up in arms and up there. And that's part of the problem too. We were up there fighting for all milk to be able to be advertised, not just donkey milk. And I was told that will never be allowed in Oklahoma. Cow milk, they said if you change it to just donkey milk, we can probably get it passed, but we'll never allow cow milk to be advertised in this state because one person died from listeria. And here's the kicker, that was from a dairy that also had pasteurized USDA grade A barn that sold some raw milk. Person took it out of state. Who knows if it was even kept refrigerated, drank it, and then unfortunately passed away, which is tragic. So we're going to regulate every dairy farm from raw milk. And then if you look up how many kids in a hospital got sick from drinking pasteurized milk in a hospital, violently ill kids in a hospital, but no one's paying attention to that or putting in any, you can't advertise your little milks that we sell in the schools and at hospitals. They don't care. It's really truly about big industry over small farmers, and not one cow milk farmer showed up at the Capitol to defend their right to free speech. And why? Because if they stay quiet and stay off the radar, then they can quietly put their milk on Facebook and hope that the government doesn't show up and shut them down. And so people are being quiet and they're trying to keep their business under the radar, and more and more and more of their rights are stripped from them. And they don't realize that it was because of us fighting for them that they're even able to sell, I think it's 300 gallons instead of 200 gallons now. That was because of our work with the Department of Ag. And I'm very grateful that they changed that rule so that cow milk farmers can sell more cow milk and goat milk farmers can sell more goat milk. But it wasn't because any of them stepped in and actually fought for their rights.
Well, I'm leaving this comment by Julia up because, again, we're not using the right terminology. Remember, we had talked one time about that we were going to just start calling them uniparty or leftists because I don't even know that we have a Republican Party anymore. But we don't talk about tyranny versus freedom. And that's what we need to do. I mean, that's what these conversations need to be about, is about tyranny versus freedom. It's flat tyranny if you can't grow a tomato in your backyard. Mm-hmm. That's tyranny. Mm-hmm. It's flat tyranny if you can't sell raw milk to people who want to come and buy it from you. You're not forcing people on it. You're not putting a gun to their head or otherwise blackmailing them or harming them to make them drink the milk. It's their choice. Mm-hmm. So not only is it tyranny for you, it's tyranny for the people, because then the people are like, well, now I don't even have a choice.
Right.
So we've got to start making sure that we're discussing this in terms of liberty versus tyranny, because what we saw at the Capitol this year was mainly tyranny.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And we're not forcing anyone to come get our donkey milk. We're not forcing anyone to go to that Amish dairy farm and buy raw milk from that Amish dairy farmer. We're not
Right.
forcing anyone to do any of these things. And my drinking raw donkey milk is not going to impact you. It's not going to put you in the hospital. It's not going to hurt your freedoms or liberties at all. And so this is the bigger issue, that we seem to think that this is for the collective good. And because I don't want to drink raw cow milk, you shouldn't get the choice to drink raw cow milk. And when they say you can sell it, but you can't advertise it, it's the same thing. You can't stay in business if you can't advertise your illegal product. And then we go into freedom of speech and the Constitution, and the fact that our legislators seem to not understand any of that, and that they are under that, and they've exempted themselves from it, even at the Capitol, to the point that they can say, she can't come back in my meeting because she took a photo. And no one's up.
No videoing.
No videoing.
I thought this was a good one too. This
Right.
one. They probably think raw milk is bad for us. It has to have chemicals in it to be good.
Oh, it can be cloned. We're also working on cloning. Can we talk about that for a minute? Okay. So
Are you going to scare me?
No, I already did that, I think. So there was actually a great bill by Senator Casey Murdoch that would have banned, and I was like, oh, on my document, I was like, this is a great bill. Good job, Senator Murdoch. This is great. I was so surprised. I was like, it's banning the sale of cloned milk in Oklahoma. And then all of a sudden, that bill was completely erased and banning the sale of cloned meat in Oklahoma. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
And then
meat, not milk.
Meat. And so that bill was completely erased and replaced with the bill that would essentially, by a labeling loophole, exclude these chemical manufacturers from liability for giving farmers cancers. I mean, completely flipped the bill that would have banned the sale of cloned meat completely, which was a bill I was all for, and flipped it to that bill instead. Meanwhile, there were other half donkey bills that were in the legislature that were heard and pushed through. And those bills said, it's fine to sell cloned meat in Oklahoma as long as you label it. It's fine. So, on the one hand, we're saying we need to take red dye out of foods because it's so toxic for people that we need to phase that out over the next however many years because it's bad. So if that's the case, why didn't we just put a label on all those foods saying, hey, this has red dye in it that could cause your kid to have ADHD type symptoms? Just put a label on it. So if we're selling something and we're saying we're all about freedom, as long as you put a label on it, it's fine. Then why don't we just add some arsenic to the food and say, hey, we put a label on it, it's fine. You were the stupid idiot that bought it and ate it. Because we're all about freedom, we say. Well,
my thought is that somebody has an investment in cloned meat somewhere.
Oh, well, but here's the thing. The price of beef and real pork and real bread made with wheat, all of the real milk, the price of all of that is going to have to skyrocket because we're currently looking for some hay to buy that is not human raised hay, and it is not in an area with wind turbines where there could be fiberglass or PFAS in the hay. And we're struggling to find any hay to buy for our animals right now. So supply and demand, if there's a lack of it because all of our hay fields are covered in solar panels, and I'm starting to say these farmers, they're struggling to make a living because the price of their products, we're not, it's a commodity. And so we're not paying them a living wage. People need to start finding farmers and buying direct. Forget the convenience of going to the grocery store and buying who knows what, raised in who knows what. I mean, I actually went to the farm in Texas where he's had 56 cows die from a neighbor who used biosolids. These are amazing Christian people. My heart is broken for them. His neighbor has already lost horses, peacocks, birds, fish, all from the neighbor who used his property rights to get biosolids that were so toxic they ran off across the road onto the neighboring property. And now these farmers are having their animals die. And what's really ironic is that by law, he still has, that was about a third of his herd that he's lost, that have just killed over dead. He still has animals he is feeding and caring for on this property that is now contaminated with PFAS forever chemicals from a neighbor's choice. He could take those cow-calf pairs and sell them for top dollar on the market. He could take those cows to the butcher and have them all slaughtered for hamburger, and it would end up in the grocery store. There is no regulation stopping him from doing that right now. The only thing stopping him is that he is a follower of Christ, and he would never do that to anyone. And so who knows what you're buying at the grocery store? And they can tell you it's grass-fed, but it's fed on grass that was fertilized with human and industrial waste. So this could all stop without legislation. This is what I keep going back to. Everybody always brought up the doctors are going to save everyone if the good doctors from the COVID, blah, 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 blah. Good farmers and good land stewards could stop all of this right now. Yes. They just know. But the only incentive that they have is if the public becomes aware of what's happening and goes directly to farmers and pays them top dollar for their beef, their pork, their milk, and buys it direct. And it's going to be a pain and it might cost you a little bit more, but maybe you won't give your kids cancer from buying something off the shelf that you didn't realize was cloned meat, was insect protein. Maybe you'll save money down the road by not having to pay for cancer treatments.
Well, and I will say this, I have a friend who slaughtered pigs, and I bought the pigs from my friend. And there is a huge difference in the way that meat tastes than what you buy at the store. And it's the same way with my beef. There are quite a few in our area that sell beef. And so I go and buy, my beef from the people around here. And it totally tastes different than what you get in the store.
Absolutely. And pork.
But it's not.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap. And I will tell you something else. That friend is no longer raising pigs because that friend hates pigs.
Yes,
and their marriage was worth it to not have pigs anymore because
but now I don't know who to buy my pork from since my friend will not raise those pigs anymore. So
Humble Hive Homestead, they have they're taking the rest of our little piglets and they're raising them because
okay, good.
We had to save our marriage. And when you have baby pigs loose on the farm, it is trying. There's no amount of money you can put on that.
Well, honestly, that's kind of the sad thing because I said something like, let's just raise a pig over here. I mean, just us, like a personal pig. Oh my goodness!
Your
I would have been married. No, wasn't gonna happen.
No,
you bring a pig over here, but honey,
raising them the right way is very difficult because they are incredibly smart. And once they figure out that electric fence just hurts for this long and then they can be out, it's game on, man.
But see, that's the problem you have was the smart pigs and the smart donkeys on the same farm.
Oh, that is true. They have.
I get so mad about people who are like, save the donkeys or donkeys are just, I'm like, you have never raised a donkey and you need to shut your mouth.
Right.
Because I have had my donkeys literally, I've just thrown the chain on the gate over really fast while I walked out. She sits there, figures out what I did, has taken it with her teeth and removed it and walked right out behind me.
Oh, absolutely. We have them turning the water. They will go and turn on the water. And for a long time, I thought someone was jacking with us because our water would be just going. And I was like, who turned on the water hydrant? Oh, it was the donkeys. So no, but we should probably get back to legislation instead of promoting how smart donkeys are.
Yeah, honestly, that's sad because we could have had a lot more viewers talking about how funny donkeys are and what a pain in the rear pigs are and how much you should appreciate, getting meat from local producers because it's just better for you. We need to have that show where we just show, we'll have a ton of viewers for that show because it'll be like, show me the pictures of Snow White. I want to see Snow White again.
Well, I would like people to put in the comments who some great producers are of human or free, non shot up animal meat that they can buy, so that everyone knows where they have local sources to get it from. Because if we're not telling people how to go get it and who we trust to buy from, and giving them resources to do that, then a lot of people really don't know how. They don't.
Well, and then Ed was giving us a piece of unhappy information, and that's true. I mean, it's been so wet out here. I don't know how anybody's going to get in there. Before you get off of here, Saundra, my friend, please give us a ray of hope with a good story or news. We talked a little bit about how cute donkeys were and how, but what else before we get off of here?
Oh, let's see. I would say just be a Joshua or a Caleb. Like, I think that we have to get involved locally, and we have to support the candidates that are going to run, because the next session, there will be so much money thrown at keeping these guys in office. So we have got to all step in to help, to be the true grassroots. And we all need to be paying attention and not just buying these PR Facebook posts about, oh, how great this is going to be. But I do believe that, we are not meant to just sit back and do nothing and, say, well, there's nothing we can do, so I'm just going to sit here and watch the show, enjoy the show, whatever the whole psyop was. We, as believers, I don't believe that's our job. I mean, I'm going back to the Bible verse that talks about the cowards and the unbelieving and the vile. And I'm like, when did we forget? And why do we not have any sermons anymore about cowardice and how it is a sin? And if we say we have faith, and if we truly believe that the Lord can do anything, then why are we being cowards about these issues? Why are we scared of some legislator? Why? Because they can write a bill against us? Because the more things like that happen, and the more I see the way the Lord provided for us miraculously through those things, I'm sure they're like, why does she stay involved in this? Why does she not back down? Why should I? If we have the Lord and his armies on our side. And I do believe, when Jesus talked about giving a cup of water to a little one, well, I'm pretty sure that water shouldn't be contaminated. That water needs to be water that child can drink. And so protecting that is absolutely, do not fear. It's a command, do not fear. And so I'm done with the cowardice. I'm done with the excuses. And we all should be. When people realize that and one more thing. For the longest time, we allowed the left to claim the label environmentalists. And you had to have purple hair or green hair in order to care about the destruction of the environment. And they're silent on all these issues. They are not standing up to blanketing farmland, tearing down trees, putting solar. And so until we reframe this narrative and we say, you know what, the Bible actually told us to be stewards of the land.
Right.
And so why are Christian right Republicans, conservatives, farmers, whatever you claim to be, standing on this issue?
Yeah.
And we seem to have forgotten about, you can't serve God and money. And there's a whole lot of legislators up there that just seem to be serving money. Money. Is that, I don't know if that was helpful or hopeful or not, but that was a rant. So you can edit that out. Oh, wait, we're live.
Yeah. No editing here. Well, we're either living here or we're not living here. And if you have children, then you're probably going to have grandchildren, possibly. And if you really legitimately don't care about your children, you're not going to be involved. And people are going to say, that's not true. I really care about my kids. I just don't have time to get involved. No. If you really, really care about your kids, you will be involved. I mean, That's all there is to it. And you can say, oh, it's too, because everything after that is an excuse. Everything after that is just an excuse. I don't have time. This happened, that happened, whatever. I mean, you can fill in the blank for all of these things, but there's nobody that's going to change it unless you change it. You have to be the change.
Yeah.
You.
Can I add one more thing? One small thing everyone could do right now is go to your page on Facebook, on wherever, and go to my page and the other freedom fighters pages, and they'll click invite all and invite all of your friends to follow those pages, because it doesn't matter if we are saying these things in a vacuum, and they are not going to do anything differently if you two say it or if I say it. But if we say it and we have millions of viewers, then maybe they'll say, oh, wait, people in my district might hear what she has to say, and maybe I should start paying a little more attention to these bills before I author them, which is a whole other topic. These guys aren't actually writing these bills, before I put them out there and push them through, because people are paying attention.
Yep. Dorn just wants to make sure that we know that the reason why he's being disrespectful.
I'm with you.
Snarky. But I mean, it is true. Either we care about this or we don't. And it is going to be too late when you're eating cloned meat. I mean, it's too late by that time. So you're either going to need to get involved now, or, whatever happens. Okay, I think we're going to have to stop for today because it's a Friday and we're about 2 hours in. So thank you so much, everybody who is with us again today. And I just want to remind you that next week on the 11th, we're going to have our special on how to run for a legislative office. And we're going to have some people who were legislators on, and people who have run for office, as well as people who can tell you how to run for office. So that'll be on the 11th. And then on the 13th, Friday the 13th, our favorite people, Whitney and Kelly from Pike Off OTA, are going to be here to talk about what happened with them at the Capitol this year. And they didn't get anywhere any better than you did, Saundra, sadly, which means that we, the people, didn't get very far on having our property stolen from us to put in more cement as a jobs program for people in Oklahoma. So there you go. You want to close this out on something, Michael?
I found our little clip about standing up. So I'll just play it. It's hard to believe that they'd actually put this in a kid's show here.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay?
We all need to watch that movie again. We all need to go watch that movie. Absolutely.
We do. Yeah. We absolutely do. All right. So thank you so much for everybody being with us today. We so appreciate you being with us, and we hope to see you again on Wednesday at 9 a.m., especially if you're looking for people in your district to run, or you might want to run yourself. Be there.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate you both.
We're always happy to have you on. Michael, have a wonderful weekend. Saundra, have a wonderful weekend, and we will see everybody on next Wednesday.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.